Hey guys, Jonathan here, and I just got home from an early screening of How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action movie, and man oh man, is there a lot to talk about. Now, before seeing the movie tonight, I actually rewatched the original, of course the animated version, going into it so that it would be fresh in my mind going into this movie, because, when you're reviewing a movie that is particularly a remake, especially one that has been heralded as a very faithful remake, you want to go in with as much freshness to the original source material as possible. So I went in with that. Now, we're going to talk non-spoilers at the beginning here. I was blown away with the visuals in this movie. Sometimes you forget that the dragons you're watching on screen aren't real, and some of the ways that they translated the animated version of the dragons into real life makes them look more like lizards and dinosaurs and less like cartoon characters in the original film. Of course, the exception to that is Toothless, and I think that Toothless is so amazing. The way that they took the animated version, which, is kind of cartoony with the big eyes and just the proportions of the dragon compared to, like, what we would see in, say, Game of Thrones, by example. So they took the cartoon version and they turned it into a real-life, live-action version that stays so true to the original while also being believable that it's, like, a realistic dragon. It's honestly a feat all unto its own, and that alone is what I would sing the praises of the movie on, first and foremost. Now, from here on out, I do kind of want to get into spoilers, but before we cross that spoiler line, I do want to say that this is definitely a script-faithful version of the original. Like, again, having watched the original earlier today, so many of the line deliveries, down to the beats of how words are said, exactly what's said. It is very, very shocking how great attention to detail they paid on everything. And it's like hearing an echo in your head. Like, didn't I just watch this a couple hours ago? Wait, no, I did watch this a couple hours ago. So that was really fun, and they definitely did a faithful job in that respect. So from here on out, we're talking spoilers. You've been warned. Okay, now, the movie is really fascinating, again, because it really does play so close to the book of the original that at times you do kind of stop and wonder, like, how necessary is this movie, right? Because, like, we have the original, it's a great beloved movie. Did it really need to be made into live action? But all these years later, past when the original came out, I think that the live action version does justify itself in the sense that the CGI and the visual effects in this are so good. It is mind-blowing. Like, obviously, look behind me, I'm a huge Marvel fan, right? But when I take some of the more recent Marvel offerings in the CGI department and compare it to what I just watched in How to Train Your Dragon live action, holy smokes, it really helps draw the difference of what's going on right now. How to Train Your Dragon CGI is so incredible, especially with the final dragon battle at the end. I guess it's kind of weird to talk about spoilers for this movie, right? Like, it's such a beat-by-beat recreation. Yes, there are some different things, but it's so similar to the original that, like, you can't really talk spoilers all that much. But, yeah, I really enjoyed the visuals of this. That sells it alone. Now, I kind of wondered for Hiccup, right? Are they going to do, like, the kind of nerdy, nasally, hey, I know somebody with a voice like that, voice from the, animated version, but they didn't really do that with the voice, right? Aside from the Viking accents, they really don't play into accents very much at all, so that worked out really well. I think that the cast across the board was great. I don't really know that I'd say there's any standouts. I just think everybody did a pretty equally good job. Of course, Gerard Butler being the most legacy actor in the film, I'd say probably comes the closest to stealing the show, just, again, based off of his legacy and icon in film. The one thing I'll say with, the acting in this is in Act 1, the way that Astrid comes across is very unlikable, at least to me, compared to what I watched in the cartoon. But Act 2 onward, it's like she transforms back into the movie version. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Honestly, I don't even think it's a knock particularly on the way that she was portrayed by the actress in the film. I actually think it's more so about the way that the film is edited. It just comes across like she's, like, better than everybody, and at least the way that I interpret the animated version, it didn't have quite the same effect. And there are some changes, right, with, like, how she discovers Toothless in this movie versus in the animated version. So I do feel like some of the differences, people are going to go, oh, I like it better in this version, or oh, it played better in this version. I'm not really sure. Honestly, I really enjoyed the live-action movie tonight, and as I was watching it, I was kind of thinking, like, okay, I'm in my late 20s, right? So, like, is this movie made for kids to get into How to Train Your Dragon, or is it made for somebody like me, where How to Train Your Dragon came out a little bit later on the cusp of, like, animated movies for me? Like, I wasn't quite as into, like, animated kids movies when the original came out, so I don't have the same nostalgia for somebody that might have been, like, 8 years old when the original came out. So I'm kind of in this in-between camp where, like, I remember, the movie and the hype around it and everything, but I wasn't quite the exact age demographic at the time. And then I'm watching this movie being like, am I the age demographic now? And that's the thing, right? Like, some of the humor is definitely played for kids and the way things are written, but it's because it's adapted from the original animated version, which is very obviously made for kids. But I think the live action version does bring a lot to the table. Like, I really liked a lot of the Viking lore, the world building that's set up. It's very contained yet expansive. The set design is incredible, and the locations, oh my gosh. It is such a beautiful movie. Tonight's early screening was actually in IMAX, which I'm sure enhanced the entire experience viewing-wise. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's one of those things, right? Like with Lilo and Stitch right now, a lot of people are saying like, oh, they changed Jumba's entire character and like they weren't true to the original, and with Nani at the end and things like that. And that really like upsets people because the original has such a perfect way of the way the movie is presented. To me, the original is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. And so when you remake it in live action and you change so many core things that are memorable about that movie, it kind of makes the audience upset that they're not getting the version they love in live action. And then also you're changing things that were beloved. So it puts you in this weird place. But then on the complete other side of the pendulum with How to Train Your Dragon, it's so exactly like the original that it's like I said earlier, it's like, like, did this movie really need to be made? But I think that the live action version, and especially, again, with the visuals of the VFX, the set design, just the action and things like that, it definitely helps appeal to a wider adult audience that probably never would have watched the animated version, of course, unless they have kids that wanted to watch it. So I think that this movie will appeal to most audiences, and that's definitely a huge win because, of course, we have the other sequel How to Train Your Dragon movies in animated form. So if you really like this and you wanted to go back, I honestly feel like you could watch the other How to Train Your Dragon, sequel movies after this one, and it would be a perfect bridge. I do believe they're making more live-action How to Train Your Dragon, and especially after the way that this one was made, and assuming the CGI can only get better, I'm very excited for that. So we're going to bring this video to a close and answer the age-old question. Was it better than the animated version? And honestly, I can't say if it was better because it was basically exactly the same. Yes, there were some narrative changes. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm the biggest How to Train Your Dragon lore fan. I just enjoy the movies. So I'm not going to nitpick every single little change here and there, but I will say that a lot of the changes worked for me, and there was nothing quite like Jumba in Lilo and Stitch that like takes you by surprise, like, whoa, what are we doing here? That's just my take personally. If you've seen the movie, I'd love to hear what you guys think, but as far as recommending it, definitely recommend. I do think it's a great time for all ages. It's just a good, have fun at the movie theater kind of movie. Turn your brain off and enjoy watching some dragons fly around on a big screen for a little while. Again, in today's day and age, what more can you ask for? So How to Train Your Dragon, definitely recommend. Would love to hear what you guys think, though, so be sure to let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for more movie reviews and, of course, all the LEGO stuff I talk about here on the channel, and I'll see you on the next video.